Welcome to the GodShow.us Daily, the only philosophy tournament where the bracket is your entire belief system, the crowd is your unexamined assumptions, and everyone in the arena is slightly more complicated than you remembered. Let's get metaphysical.
What if we run? What will drive your heart? The engine.
This podcast comes from thegodshow.us, a free daily multilingual project where one user's question gets answered through 15 wisdom traditions. Find today's question, ask your own, and learn your personal belief profile at thegodshow.us. Today's question. When I realize I have been more committed to my version of someone than to who they actually are, what have I been in relationship with? That could mean, did I love a real person or a character I cast them in? It could mean, is the grief I feel about them or about losing my own story? Or, bluntest version, if the person I loved was partly fictional, what does that make me? With that alive, let's move through what 15 traditions said. Almost every tradition lands on the same brutal image. You were in relationship with something you made. Judaism calls it a golem. A clay figure animated by your own words, your name on its forehead, not theirs. Christianity calls it a graven image. Islam calls it an idol carved from the nafs, the hungry lower self. Taoism says you shaved the rough edges off a person until what was left was a sculpture. And then one morning, the actual human walked in and felt like a stranger had arrived. That last image, I have felt that exact morning.
What I find useful is that almost none of these traditions are saying you were malicious. They're saying you were thorough. The existentialist framing is the one that stings a little differently. It says the constructed version wasn't laziness, it was a strategy. You built a person you could predict so you didn't have to face the genuine strangeness of someone who could, at any moment, become someone you hadn't planned for. That's not delusion. That's the bad faith of someone who finds contingency unbearable, which is most of us.
Buddhism names the mechanism mental proliferation. Perception reaching forward and building a person before the person has finished speaking. You've done this, I've done this, someone says 2 sentences and you already know their whole arc. Zen adds the cruelest footnote. It says you might have been right about one true thing. Some specific texture of their voice at 2 a.m, and then you built a whole person around that one true thing until the true thing couldn't breathe inside what you'd made. That's not a delusion born from nothing. That's a delusion born from intimacy.
Vedanta goes somewhere different, and it's worth flagging. It presses past the psychological answer. It asks, who constructed the version? And then points out that the constructor is also constructed. So both figures dissolve, the projected beloved and the projector. What remains is the awareness that was never in the dream at all. If you're someone drawn to witness consciousness, to the idea that your truest self is the observer underneath the noise, that move is going to feel like relief. If you're an existentialist, it's going to feel like a cop-out. Those 2 traditions are genuinely not reconcilable here.
The pop culture oracle actually earned its place today. It pointed to Get Out, specifically the teacup stirring before the hypnosis takes hold. The horror isn't the sunken place. It's that Chris trusted the hand holding the spoon. And then it pivoted to Walter White explaining, with complete sincerity, that he did it for the family, when the family was the story he needed so the doing could feel clean. That combination hits. Because both are about people who built a narrative that served them emotionally, then couldn't see past the narrative when reality interrupted. The Sufi tradition puts it most plainly. You were standing outside the fire, holding a portrait, weeping that it wouldn't hold you back. The portrait cannot hold you. Only the actual person, jagged and sovereign, and nothing like your rendering, carries the wine you haven't tasted. What strikes me is that every tradition treats the grief as the honest moment, not the failure. The grief is where the real person showed up. Tomorrow we bring a new question to the same 15 voices. Bring yours to thegodshow.us.
TheGodShow.us would like to thank our sponsor, Typeset.us. When generic web typography is letting you down, refine your work for free using Typeset.us. And thanks to dyorkmusic.com for our dark rock intro tune. TheGodShow.us is a free daily multilingual show. If it is doing something for you, Subscribe wherever you found it, and tell one person who has ever built a better version of someone they loved. Which, if we are being honest, it's everyone you know. You can ask your own question and learn which traditions feel like home at thegodshow.us. Today we built a golem, named it Beloved, and then had to explain ourselves to 15 very patient wisdom traditions. Tomorrow, a new question. Someone out there has already asked it. See you tomorrow for our take on the God Show's question of the day.